All right, David, we are live. I am with David Lee Brewer, vocal coach, vocal teacher. What should we call you? How would you describe it?
Well, I think the masses would call me a vocal coach. I think that's what the mass, the masses know is vocal coach. There's the vocal coach, there's the voice teacher, and there's the vocal pedagogue. But actually, what I'm doing is psychological vocal therapist, which is a combination of all of those things that I just mentioned. But I concentrate on what the others don't, and that is the psychological health of the singer, of the performer.
The psychological health?
The psychological health. Um, Singers that have traumas. For instance, if I have a singer who has been in a car accident, um, it could be that that particular singer has damage to the occipital nerve, and that's causing them angst, fear of high notes, or they might have developed some sort of complex because they have air in the middle of their voice. I can deal with the psychological ramifications of that particular trauma in their life, teach them to clear it up, teach them technically how to solve it, and heal the fear at the same time.
Every time I'm talking about singers, and that's where my brain has gone to is the emotion of singers and the lyric, bringing
Yeah.
out the emotion of the lyric. But every time I'm talking about artists, we get into this psychological thing like all artists are crazy or something, or have
Well,
deep.
it's not that they're crazy, but they are. They are. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy to fear a note, but they do. They all do. Especially the higher it goes, the more fear they have. And the very first thing that they want to do is come up out of their body, and that is the absolute worst thing that you can do is come out of your body. Singing high notes, you go the opposite direction. You go down in your body. You become more anchored to sing the high note. But a singer who is mentally blocked is is going to need some work to unblock that mental trauma that they have. It could be I've had singers come in here to work with me that couldn't exactly sing the note on pitch. And I thought there's no physical reason why you can't sing that note on pitch, so it must be psychological. And then I start talking to them, asking them certain questions, and I find out that some teacher before used to harp the fact that their high notes were flat. And I said, okay, I understand that. First of all, let me explain to you your high notes are not flat. The vowel does not have the right upper and lower partials. That is a breath problem, and we have fixed that breath problem. So now those notes are in tune. They're spinning correctly. They're oscillating correctly because the breath is correct. So you no longer have that problem. So we can let that go. And then I prove it to them one or two exercises, and then they realize, oh, but it's something that they've been dragging with them. Someone told them they were flat, they were flat, they were flat over and over and over again, and they build a complex about being flat. And so when they go to somebody like you, the producer, and then you say to them you're flat, you have no idea that the word flat is a trauma for them. But if I'm sitting in the studio next to you, I recognize that it is a trauma, and I understand what the buzzword is, what the trigger word is, and I don't allow you to say the trigger word. I change the terminology so that you then get what it is that you need. You know, and that's the beauty of working with singers in the studio. We can put them on mute from the control room so they don't hear what I'm actually saying to you. So I'm
Uh-huh.
cluing you in as to what the psychological trauma, what that trigger word is for that singer, or what I think it is, based on how they're behaving and the conversation that I would have had for them with them earlier on in the session. And then I say, okay, use this word instead of this word, and then you get the result that you need. It's like some people are, have had a childhood trauma, and they remember smells. I mean, every psychologist understands this. When you're dealing with trauma, it's taste, it's smell, it's visual. Those are the things that it's audible. Those are the things that can trigger that trauma for that person. And so you just got to understand how to deal with that and how to counteract that. In other words, talk them down off the ledge. You got to talk them down off the ledge. And I get people to sing high notes in the studio that never have sung a high note before, simply because I explain it to them in a way and give them the visual that they need to get the high note out. If it's not connected to a real emotion, it's not going to come out anyway. It needs to be connected to a real emotion. So I help them find that real emotion by displacing the other one, taking the other one away, and substituting it with a new thought.
Okay.
It's a very interesting process.
I would like to have you take an artist or two, do some series like I do with Brad Chapman. He's helped me a great deal. I really want to get good at bringing the emotion out of the vocalist. And you had said something previously to me about removing the artist out of their own way.
Yes.
And then you talked about creating pictures.
Text painting.
So would you do that with me, where I bring an artist in and you sit
Absolutely.
down and we...
Absolutely. I think it would be very interesting to bring in a female artist and then a male artist, because there's a different approach.
Okay.
There's a different approach. And so I would like to cover both of those approaches. Your male singers are going to be a lot more self-conscious, as boys genuinely are. A lot more self-conscious, and to break down those walls are a little bit more challenging, but I usually always win. So
okay.
I would welcome it. Let's set up a time and see if we can do that. I'm going to be stationary until the 8th of May, and that's when I'm back in the United States. So maybe we should do it before then.
Okay. The whole texting, I keep saying texting.
Text painting?
Text painting. Tell me about that.
Okay, text painting is understanding what your text means, what pictures or what are the images that come to mind when you actually break the text down. I call it teaching the student how to play the movie in their head. There's a movie that must go on in your head. For instance, when I'm listening to a piece of music, say for instance Lionel Richie's Hello, the introduction of that song before he begins to sing sets up the mood for me, because I'm listening intensely to the musical idea, the musical motif that the composer or the producer has arranged, and I'm allowing it to have an influence on me. So when I hear bing ba 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 ba, that depending on the chord he uses, and if it's a high partial as opposed to a low partial, it will have a certain effect on me if I allow that introduction to move over me, over my spirit. And then when I start to sing, I've been alone with you, I'm already set to tell the story. So text painting is understanding what's musically happening without having it down intellectually, just allowing yourself to feel whatever that music makes you feel. There is no right or there is no wrong. Whatever that music makes you feel, that is an honest an honest emotion, and we start from there. Then I take the text, the first line, what I've been alone with you inside my mind. He's thinking he's alone. Okay, where is he alone? Is he alone in his house? Is he alone at work? Is you see what I'm saying? And once the singer decides, okay, he's alone in his office. As I said, there are no rights or there no wrongs. So the singer will say he's alone in his office, and there's a girl in his office that he sees all the time, but she doesn't know that he sees her. She doesn't know that he's interested in her. Has nothing to do with the video where the girl is actually blind. As this is an everyday situation. Every man knows what it's like to see a girl who he likes and she doesn't know that he sees her. So you call that emotion up in the singer, and then you ask them to sing the phrase again. It's very close to what Brad Chapman is doing, very close to what he's doing. He's actually breaking the text down and helping the singer think about the production or the performance of that text in a new way. And that's what text painting is. Going through every single word and figuring out what the subtext of the text is. And that becomes
Okay, now hold on, my internet is messing up for some reason. You spoke about listening to the music and picking out sounds and those individual sounds, listening to those individual sounds for emotion and what they would do to you. And I stated, I said, I don't do that, which I'm about to start.
yeah,
But, you know, I said what I do is, like, if there's a synth in there, I'll have them, I want my singers to become musicians, is what it is. I want them to actually become musicians.
absolutely.
And so I'll have them listen to music to different instruments and duplicate those instruments with their vocal so that they we even create music with just vocals. Like I'll call up a engineer and have them create all the music with their vocals. But then you turned and said, listen to a music line, some piece of music within the music, say an instrument playing, and assign an emotion to that. Tell me about that. You spoke about assigning emotion to the different sounds that we hear in the music.
Okay. For instance, I just had a student here who was singing Donny Hathaway's song. I forget the name of it. The one where he is talking about "I love you more than you'll ever know."
Yeah, that's my song. Yeah,
But is that my song?
That's my song, bro. Do you remember the name of it?
That particular song. At any rate, there is the introduction before the singer begins. And I asked my student to just listen to the introduction, and I asked him what did he hear. And he played it, and he listened very intensely, like a good student. And he came up with, well, I hear that some mess he gave me. And I said, no, that's not quite right. I said, let's just listen to the first two chords. Ba-boom. What does that mean to you? Ba-boom. Did the sound go up or did it go down? He said it went down. I said, okay, now listen to the color of that. Ba-boom. What does that feel like to you? He said, it feels heavy. I said, yes. This is a man whose heart is heavy. He goes to work every day. He brings the money home. He gives it to the wife. He told her, I'm a musician. I'm on the road. She knew exactly who she was marrying. But as all good women do, they tend to forget that man already told them who he was, and they start making demands on that man, which then puts him into a tailspin of emotion. And that's what this song is about. So the very first line that you sing must have that heaviness that a man would feel of, okay, I'm actually going to now have this conversation with you. Because I explained to him, I said, what do we do as men? We shut down. We don't really want to. We just, yes, dear, we just try to deal with it because we don't want to discuss it. But in this particular song, he has decided to address it. And he's not going to scream because he loves her. She loves him. They have family, but she's actually leaving him. She's taking the children and leaving him. And he is got to now express how he feels. And so he doesn't come in with the first line with a very boisterous sound. That wouldn't be right. And the music before he sings is setting up a very heavy sound. He's heavy in his heart. So his first sound is going to be as honest as you can make it. And the singer was then able to do it. He took all of the performance off of it and told the story. And that's basically what I'm trying to get the singer to do in the studio when I'm working with them, is to tell the story. Every song written is somebody's story. And if I can get the singer to understand that looking out on the morning rain is somebody's story, whether it's your story or not, do you understand it? I remember there was a comedian once. I forget who it was. Think I think it was in the Wayans family. I think it was one of them that said, he made a comment about, I don't agree with it, but I understand it.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I think you know what I'm talking about. I don't
yeah.
remember what comedian that was, but that's what you got to get the singer in the recording studio to do. They have to identify with the character in that song. And not every character, I mean, I can't sing good morning, honey, you old friend of mine. I've never had a drug in my body in my life, but I know she's talking about heroin. And so everybody thinks she's talking about to a lover. Like, no, she's talking about being addicted to heroin. Thought we said goodbye last night. Here you are once again in the dawn.
Okay.
Now, when you realize that that is about heroin and that is about an addiction, maybe you've never taken heroin, but maybe you woke up thinking about some girl that you shouldn't be thinking about. Or maybe you woke up thinking about some boy that you shouldn't be thinking about. And you need to get them out of your mind. You can't get them out of your mind. You can't focus. You got to focus. You got work to do. But you find yourself thinking of them every second of the day. Well, if you've had that experience, you can sing that first line. It's the exact same emotion. So what I try to do is find, through text painting exercises, I try to help the singer break down the text and associate the emotion with what has happened in their life. And you get a total different performance. A total different performance. And a lot of times they completely do what I call a literal translation of the text. And that's not right. It's not going deep enough. It's not going deep enough. Every songwriter that writes a text is writing from personal experience. And mostly those personal experiences are very deep emotions. And so if you come into the recording studio and you sing just the surface, you're not doing justice to the song. Our job as singers is to serve the music. We are not serving ourselves. And I never allow a singer to serve themselves. There's a famous conductor by the name of Lorin Maazel, Lorin Maazel, Lorin Maazel. And he once said that a singer is only nervous for 3 reasons, or unfocused for 3 reasons. One, they don't know their music. Two, they don't know the text. Or three, they're thinking about themselves in the performance. How do I look? How do I want that note to sound? Uh, that's not your business. Your business is to look at that text, to hear that music, and react from a very honest place. And hopefully with an open throat.
Okay, you threw that open throat in there. What's up, bro?
Well, I see a lot of, especially when I work with guys in the studio, they do a lot of chin raising, and they think that that's soul. I'm like, no, that's a bad bowel movement. That has nothing to do with soul.
Did a bowel movement?
Bowel movement. That's what I say. It sounds like a bowel movement.
Okay,
It's
1 second. Lover boy, I'm putting you on blast. Are you hearing this? This is for you. That is not soul.
That is not soul singing. That is not soul singing. It is not. I'm sorry. Soul singing has to do with the heart and the soul. The soul sits in the middle. Oh, wow. Look at those speakers.
Come back. Yeah. So
soul singing has to do with sitting in the middle of the solar plex, which is the middle of your diaphragm. It has nothing to do with you raising your chin and going, and squeezing it out. That's not it. So I usually try to help the guy to open up that throat, to feel what that feels like, and to use their very masculine, very virile masculine testosterone that we all have as men, and to bring that into the song. I have a real problem with the boy singers of today. They just all sound a little too pretty.
Wow. Yes.
They sound just a little too pretty for my taste. And I would like to bring that masculinity back to music, back to song, from the male. And a lot of them think it has to do with their swagger and this. No. It's something there's very primal in us as men that needs to come out in that music, that doesn't come out because we don't have good male role models in music. All of the success in music are females. So when that's the case, then the men don't have anybody to look to. And the younger they are, the less they know to go and look at a Teddy Pendergrass. They don't even know who that is. Or a Marvin Gaye. They have no clue. So all they have is who they know today. And those guys are all singing with a lot of falsetto and head sound, and there's no meat, there's no substance, there's no Fleisch, as the Germans say, in the sound. And men are not about he. That's not what we're about.
That is correct there, bro.
That's not what we're about. You got to get some bass in the voice, And so I try to get them to understand that is, it's okay, to sing from a primal place. And once they accept that and really understand what it is that I'm saying to them, and that I'm not trying to be offensive, I really am not. I'm not trying to be offensive. I'm trying to get a masculine performance. I want a masculine performance. You just said, I love you. And if I don't feel that it's coming from a man, if I go, I love you. No, I don't believe that. I don't believe it, and your listener's not going to believe it.
Yes.
So I try to help them to understand that they've got to come with the realness. And in order to get that realness, we got to have an open throat. You got to feel your body, and you gotta have trust. It's like walking a tightrope. Good singing is like walking a tightrope. You could fall off that rope at any minute, but you take the risk. You take the risk, and that's when you get something special in the studio.
Okay. I believe the song was A Song for You. Um, the one you were asking about, where the piano comes in, you were saying listen to the piano, and
No,
he's
wait,
explaining.
dun, dun, dun.
And then that was Donny Hathaway,
He
and
says, because I don't want to get the wrong song. Let me just look it up. Donny Hathaway, and he says,
yeah, I want the song because we're gonna go back and everybody will go back and listen to that
"I
and
love
listen.
you more than you'll ever know."
Yes,
That one.
yes, A Song for You.
Yes. So when you listen to the very beginning of that, boom, dum, 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 dum. I mean, it's heavy. It's a downward movement, and they all get they feel the passion of that, and they come out with the first line, and it's too strong, and I have to remind them, wait. You're a man. How would a man start to say to a woman what he feels? Would he scream it? Or would he be very consequent about it? Because you got to think, as a man, he's been listening to this and listening to this, and now he's tired of it, and he's going to address it. He's not going to scream it at her. He's going to say, you know, I've heard you all those other times. It's going to be from a very natural place. And then it's going to go and expand and expand the more he goes, the more he gets into the song. There's one climactic moment in the song. And if I feel like a climax is happening before that climactic moment, it's wrong. It just feels wrong. It's one of those songs, it's honest. This man is working. You got a picture for yourself. You're working every day. Sometimes you're working two shifts, double shifts. If you're not a singer, if you're not an artist, you're working at the meat packing plant. You're working a double shift. You bring every penny. The text says, I haven't spent one red cent of the money. I bring it all home to you. I love you more than you'd ever know. Do you think I want to see you take my children away? I mean, that's a real conversation going on there. And it has to be just that, a conversation. It has to come from a very honest place. And you don't try to imitate Donny Hathaway. I want to know what you have to say about it. Because every man has been in that situation. Every man has been in that situation. And it doesn't necessarily mean a love relationship. It could be the job. You've had enough. We've all gotten to that place where we've had enough. And you have to, on that particular, deal with it. And that's what this song is about. And after that, he sang it totally different. And he even got emotional and had to stop. And that is what you are looking for.
Yes, that's
Because
exactly.
when he gets to the place where he can't sing the song, where is overcome with emotion, you're getting now to the meat and potatoes of the performance. Then I have to take them another step and say, okay, now how do you keep that energy? How do you keep that performance and not cry? Maybe it's okay to cry in the middle of the phrase. Let the tear go. If that's what's going to give us the performance, let it go. Nobody sees it. Nobody sees it. So you're safe here. You're safe. So that's what I try to do. I try to take what it is that you want as a producer and be the translator, become the translator to the singer, because I actually know what's in the singer's mind, what's happening with their breath, what's happening in their throat. I understand what's going on there. So when you say, I want it to sound fragile, I know how to get the singer to sound fragile. That particular singer. It's different for everybody.
Um, You had said, well, I'm actually, I got some of these notes written down. Um, First, how do people, do you want people contacting you, or if people are like paying clients want to contact you, uh, where do they go? Is there a website where they can
Yeah,
check
they
you
can
out
go to
on?
my website and send me an email. And that's www.brewer-international.com. Or they can go to my masterclass website, my North American masterclass website, which is iwillbringyoutothestage.com, all in one word. iwillbringyoutothestage.com. And they can contact me there through my publicist, through the on-site coordinator. There are all sorts of ways. I'm on Facebook. I'm not hiding from anybody. I'm not trying to hide from anybody. My publicist is constantly telling me that I shouldn't be so accessible, but I really am interested in helping people. And but they should know if they contact me, they're going to get the truth.
Okay, you say that like it's a threat.
It's not a threat, but I'm not into telling people they have talent when they don't. I don't want to do that. I will not ever tell anyone that they can't make it because I'm not God. I can't tell someone that they can't make it. But
Hmm.
what I can tell them is that they're not singing healthily. They're not singing on pitch. Their voice lacks color. Their voice lacks spontaneity. It lacks flexibility. It lacks beauty. And then on the upside of that, it could be a really wonderful voice. That I say this is really worth. I mean, really worth investing in. And then I'm trying to move heaven and hell for that person, to connect them with the right producers and the people that can help them. And some people have even become my students that way. I don't take a lot of students these days because I just don't have the time. So that's why I'm trying to do master classes and programs like yours where I can reach a bigger number of people and be able to answer questions and help start a dialogue about healthy singing. Because we all used to sing, we all used to breathe health, everything was right. And I can tell you, when you're a child, everything is right. And then what happens? You grow up and your mama starts saying to you, be quiet, be quiet, not so loud, not so loud. And every time a child hears that, that child pulls that voice back more and more and more and more until he is speaking or she is speaking at the decibel level that the parent finds permittable. Now, what that does is it closes the child down, it closes the voice up. And then later on they want to sing and they come to me and I'm saying let it out, let it out, let it out. I'm saying the exact opposite. So I have been known to stop people in department stores and Walmart and everywhere else, mothers who are telling their children to be quiet. I will stop that mother and say, do you realize what you're doing to your child? If that child wants to become a singer, then he's going to come to me 10 years later and I'm going to have a mess. Let him learn on his own to figure out the balance. Don't tell him to pull his voice back. And they kind of look at me strange, like, who are you and why are you telling me how to raise my child? But I'm passionate that way. I get myself into trouble a lot.
Yeah, bro. Some of us won't take too kindly to that. You might pull a
Yeah, I'm
belt.
like, can you not scream at the child to be quiet, please? Can you not do that?
The In your master classes, what are you teaching in your master classes? If people are going to pay to come to your master classes, what can they expect?
The truth. Short and simple, the truth. And what I mean by that is I take every singer on an individual basis. Most singers have the same problem, and that's the problem of breath. or how to use their breath, I should say, how to use their breath, because a lot of people, unless they've gone to a voice teacher before, are more than likely going to be breathing correctly. They just aren't optimizing it. So that's something that's pretty common across the board, breath. Something that's also pretty common across the board is vowels, purity of vowels. And something that's also pretty common across the board is commitment, or confidence in what it is that you are presenting. So those things, when a singer is standing before me, those are pretty common things. Um, Say for instance, you came and you sang. What the first thing I do is ask the singer to sing for 15 or 20 seconds, whatever they'd like. It can be happy birthday. It really doesn't matter. They just need to sing for 15 to 20 seconds so that I hear the voice. I'm looking at the breath. I'm watching their body for how they breathe. I'm listening for the inherent quality of the voice. I'm listening if there is a problem with vowels. I'm listening for resonance and projection. Does the voice project or is it swallowed? I'm listening for which vowel is the worst so that I can hone in on it and fix it. And I'm also doing something that most voice teachers don't do. I'm looking at their face, I'm studying their face intensely because there are 43 muscles in the face. And each one of those muscles in your face, those 43 muscles are attached to emotion. And if you're singing the song that is sad and the happy face, the muscles, the zygomatic major muscles and the zygomatic minor muscles are being activated, which are the muscles for smiling, for happiness, then we have a problem. You're using the wrong muscles. I remember I had a student who was singing a song that was happy, and she was using the sad muscles, which are the eyebrows, the muscles that are above the eyebrows. They circle the eye. And when you are sad, that happens instinctively. You don't even know it's happening. So if you're singing a song that where that is supposed to happen and I see this instead, you're not getting the right emotion. So I'm looking to see where the person is emotionally. And usually those face muscles tell me if there is some sort of trauma that I need to address. I usually don't address traumas in public with the student, but I do have my ways of helping them to get past the trauma. To get past, I mean, can you imagine standing in front of 100 people or 200 people that you don't know and singing and having somebody pick your voice apart? That's already nerve-wracking. So I work very quickly to gain their trust, and I talk about the good things that I hear, and then I talk about the bad things, and then we just start with what I think is the most important problem, and I start chipping away at that. Usually it's the tongue. In my African American people, it's usually the tongue. There's a lot of tongue retraction. And that's because of the nature of producing the sound for soul and R&B and gospel. And the tongue retracts and it goes back from the teeth. And when that happens, it becomes a very throaty sound. You've seen those singers that sing and they have veins popping out in their neck?
Yes, sir.
I guarantee you the tip of their tongue is so far back away from their teeth that they're about to choke. And if I can get them to understand that the tongue is supposed to remain here, very easy, the tip of the tongue is supposed to remain at the back of the teeth, they will make a much better sound. And I always, I would say within 10 minutes, I can correct that. And then if they continue to do the exercises, they will get better and better and better. Don't forget, these people have been doing this for years. And I'm coming in and giving them tools to correct the problem. It's up to them to follow that guideline to correct the problem. You can't correct what somebody's been doing for 20 years in 10 minutes. I can show them the way, but the actual correction takes time. So they have to understand that they have to be patient, and they have to do the exercises exactly as they are given the exercise. Don't alter it, don't change it. Do it exactly as it's to you, and it will work. It will work.
Now, lyrics affect how a person sings, like the choice of words that people put down on
This
paper. Is there
this is a
anything you?
very important. This is very important for all the songwriters out there. I've been sitting in sessions, and I will hear a lyric and go, mm-mm. And the songwriter's going, but that's the way I feel. And I said, well, that might be the way you feel it, but that's going to present a problem with that E and that A together. How can we find another word? Because you're not going to get smoothness. You're not going to get what the producer is wanting from you because of the word choice that you use. By the way, the vowels follow each other. It's going to be bumpy. And there is a way to make it a little bit more smoother on you. And some vowels use more breath than others. And some vowels you lose a lot of breath on. And if you have a song where you have saying E, the breath is really going out of the body very, very quickly. If you go E, ah, and then go from E to ah, well, ah needs less breath. So you expended all of your breath on this E vowel that the song says you're supposed to hold for 4 beats. And then you have to sing softly this ah and taper it down. How are you going to do it? You have no more breath. Because of the very nature of the E vowel, you have no more breath. So now what we've got to do is figure out how to do it. So what I do is I tell the student to sing the E vowel, but to stop the breath. It's like a moment of surprise. And you go, E. And then you're actually not expending the energy and the breath. And you can give the composer or the producer what he wants. It's little tricks like that make a difference. But you got to know what's happening on the vowels. You got to know what's happening. Yeah, and with that particular singer, if they have a terrible tongue retraction problem, then what I normally will do is I will stop the session, ask the producer to give me a few minutes, and I will go in and I will give the person a lesson to get rid of some of the tension, and then we will start the session. Well, that's basically how I always do it, unless I know the singer or have worked with the singer before. I always start with a warm-up, with a lesson, and then go from the lesson into the session, because it's very important that the breath is flowing, that they're connected to their breath, because once that happens, the breath will energize you. I've had people that normally could sing maybe about 2.5, 3 hours, and their voice starts to cut out on them. Do 10, 12-hour sessions and not lose their voice, and they wonder why. Because you used your breath.
Okay.
If you don't let the breath go through the vocal cords, actually go through the vocal cords the way it's supposed to, they swell and you fatigue them. And that's where hoarseness comes from. So
Like
it's
Ashley Littlejohn. Like we
yeah,
were
it's
from
just
Ashley Littlejohn.
she was probably singing her tail off. I mean, singing for Jesus to beat the band, but there was no breath flowing through her vocal cords. And as a result, they swole.
So she should have been able to sing her butt off, no problem that night, and come back
And,
and do
and,
that
and
session
go out and laugh and talk
without being hoarse at all.
without being hoarse. Hoarseness is not so. Look, I sang a complete. I'm an opera singer, so I remember I did a performance of Rigoletto in Houston from Giuseppe Verdi, and it's a very long opera. And I have a lot of high notes in that opera. It's a lot of exposed high notes. It's very florid, very beautiful lyric singing. that is exposed a lot of the time. If you know anything about Verdi, Verdi writes kind of like a waltz. Ta 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 ta. That's in a lot of the instrumental, which is underlying the vocal line. And then you have this vocal line that is very legato over this ta 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 ta. And if you're having a problem and you don't know what to do, the audience is going to hear it. So I remember going to the doctor, Richard Stasny, who I think is one of the best ear, nose, throat doctors in the United States, is in Houston, Texas. The Texas Voice Center is the name of his practice. Um, I went to him and he looked at my throat and he said, "David, you have acute laryngitis." I could not speak. Once he told me what the diagnosis was, I knew what I needed to do to warm up. So I immediately left. I went home. I took a hot bath, as hot as I could make it, which warmed my blood up and my body up, which then sent the blood to the vocal cords, so that they would start to, yeah, have some flexibility to loosen up. And then I started with very light and that's what's called a vocal fry. I would let the vocal fry happen. I wouldn't try to stop it. And eventually that slime would, or the phlegm would pop off the vocal cord. Then I'd go up a half step higher. By the time the performance came, I was clear and ready to go. I went out on stage and sang with a laryngitis. And you can do that because singing requires a different flow of air than speaking. And if your air is flowing, the vocal cords will oscillate. They will continue to beat. When we speak, it's usually short. It's usually short breaths that we're taking. And the vocal cords cannot remain active with short breaths. It has to have a constant flow of air to beat and to come together. So that's why you can sing sick. The only time you should not sing is if you have a cold that's in your throat or chest, a chest cold. That can be dangerous because that's how you get laryngitis. If you have a head cold, you can sing. You feel a little uncomfortable, but you can sing because the mucus is not, it's not sitting directly on your vocal cords. Of course, the drainage means that the mucus is going down the throat and getting into the throat. But a cold in your throat and in your chest is much more debilitating to a singer than a head cold. So it's just knowing all of those things and what to do and how will steam help, what foods not to eat, how much sleep you need to have, how much water you need to drink. To get your mind wrapped around it. And you got to know you got to have your technique because every singer will understand what I'm talking about. When you are sick, it is very difficult for you to concentrate on the performance because you feel something in your throat. And you're constantly dealing with that. And the more you deal with it, the tighter it gets. Because it's really not real. It's not real. If you take a breath, the minute you breathe, your throat is open and ready to sing. It's the negative thought that closes the throat. It's the negative thought that closes the throat. And that negative thought of, oh God, is this going to come out? Means that it's not going to come out.
Gotcha.
So you've got to learn how to rethink, and this is where I get into the psychological work of voice teaching. I actually ask my students to come to a voice lesson when they're ill, so that they can learn how to sing and how to perform when they're ill. So I love what I do. I just absolutely love it, and the greatest joy for me is having a singer be moved by his own singing or by her own singing. That is an amazing moment, and it always happens. It always happens. The tears come.
You spoke about singing not directly to the microphone. Would you
Yeah,
explain?
this is, microphones. I don't have to tell you, but microphones are built in a surround sound. There are mono microphones where you sing directly into the microphones, but the microphones that most productions are using have a surround sound built into them, an omnidirectional.
The Omni mics, yeah.
Yeah, and what I do is to teach the singer about harmonics and vibration so that they are actually learning to sing with that surround sound kind of technique way of singing. So that when they sing into the microphone, that the sound is going over the microphone rather than directly into the microphone, which always gives the singer a cold, harsh, metallic kind of sound.
You're saying singing directly into the microphone can give that cold, harsh metal metallic.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
I
And
actually
so
put the mic off to the side and aim it at their mouths, and so that they don't sing into the directly into the mic.
yes, see, you found a way to do it, but now if you study with me, then you learn how to leave that microphone in front of your face and how to let the tone out. You
Okay.
let the tone out so that the tone, like smoke, then goes around and over the microphone. So that is evenly distributed. The harmonics of the tone is evenly distributed, and that's called surround sound. And you can sing. It's called learning to sing in the room or for the room, and not in the microphone.
Okay. Now, Destiny's Child.
Yeah.
How the creation of Destiny's Child. I saw a video or picture or something, and there were 6 of them. Then it went down to 4. When did you get involved? What is the history behind that, Destiny's Child?
Well, what most people don't know is that I am I was there from the beginning because I put Destiny's Child together. So the girls were very young, and they were taking some dance classes with Darlette Johnson in her dance studio in Houston, Texas. And I was approached by their original manager, who was a female by the name of Andretta Tillman, who died. And Ann asked me to work together with her on developing this girl group. I went to see one of their rehearsals, and there were 50 girls singing and dancing, and they called that a girl group. And I was like, this is not a girl group. This is an aerobics class. So we got to cut this down. So Ann asked me would I commit to working with her on the group, and I said, yes, I will commit to working on this group if I and only I have the right to decide who's in the group, because it's me that has to build the sound. So she agreed. And so then I auditioned all the girls and put them together. Originally, it was Beyonce, a girl named Ashley Davis, and Kelly Rowland. But Kelly Rowland didn't come to the group until later. They didn't want to let Kelly sing for me. She was there, but they didn't want to let her sing for me because she was new. She was the new girl on the block, and they didn't know anything about her, and so they didn't want to allow her to sing. But something about Kelly just intrigued me. Her face, there was something about her presence that said this girl's a star. So I kept asking about her and kept asking about her. Then one day I got a phone call from the former manager who said, come over. And she thinks that she's found the girl, the third girl. And when I got to her house, it was Kelly Rowland. Well, I was elated. And then I said, oh God, please let this girl be able to sing. And she opened her mouth and she could sing, but her voice was so tiny. It was so tiny that I had to almost sit inside her mouth to hear it. But I could hear that diamond. I could hear it. So now I've got Beyonce, I've got Ashley Davis, who is now called Tamar Davis. You can look her up. She's very successful. She's working a lot with Tyler Perry, and she had a contract with Universal, and Prince took her on when she was 15. Wonderful, wonderful singer, Tamar Davis, and then the third person was Kelly Rowland. The other three girls were Latavia Roberson and her two cousins, Nikki and Nina. I forget what Nikki and Nina's last name was, but anyway, Nikki and Nina were the dancers, and Latavia was the rapper. And they were called Girls Time. And they actually stayed Girls Time in that formation through Star Search until they were 14. At 14 years old, they got an audition with the senior vice president at Columbia, who then said he only wanted a singing group. He was only interested in a singing group. And then they were just dropped. Matthew just dropped them. And I thought, oh, you can't do this to children. They're 14 years old, and not all of them were 14. I think one girl was still 12. I think Nina. No. Yeah, Nina was still 12, I think. She was very young. So I decided to call the record company, and I said, can you give me some time to see if I can save at least one of the girls? And they did. And they gave me 6 months' time. Matthew, on the other hand, gave me 1 month because he was very much against the idea of trying to save the girls. He felt that the girls should be a 3-girl group, but that wasn't the sound that I had in my head. And I was the artistic director. I was the person creating the sound. So I always knew that I wanted 4 girls. I started out with 3, but I was always looking for a 4th girl. And then eventually Latavia Roberson joined the group and gave me the lows that I had been looking for. She has a very sultry, low sound that I was able to incorporate into the sound that I had already been working with for, I think at that time, 5 years already. So that's how they came to 4 members. That's how that happened.
And Matthew, I take it, is Beyonce's father?
Yeah, Matthew knows. So he wanted a lot of control.
Okay. You said gain trust. I, as a producer, how would I go about gaining the trust of the singer?
If you've never worked with them before.
Yes, yes.
Well, the very first thing you do is try to identify the good things that they do, and you talk about you catch more flies with honey. So the very first thing you do is compliment them on what they do right, and then with girls, I have seen that a little bit of flirting works, harmless flirting. Yeah, because you ignite something in their female bodies that becomes sexual, and that's what the performance needs most of the time. So it's always done in jest, and there's never any touching or anything like that. But there is oh, you're so pretty, oh, blah blah blah, oh, come on, sugar pumpkin, sugar dumpling, stuff like that. You want to call them sweetie pie, something like that. Just little endearing names. Maybe you come up with something else, but I'm just answering your question. You have to come up with a name that feels comfortable coming out of your mouth that would become endearing to them. This breaks down any barriers that they may have set up. And then you just start working with them in the studio, and you say, oh, that was great, that was really great, but you singing, I need this one word to come out special. And then you get that one word to come out, and then the second word to come out. And then you do something magical that I try to explain to all. Well, this is what I do when I'm in the studio working with a producer. I will say to the singer, okay, the producer wants blah, 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 blah. What I want you to do is to think this, that, and the other. But this time when you sing the phrase, I want you to allow yourself to change the rhythm, to change the note. Whatever it is that you feel, sing it. Whatever it is that you feel in that moment, sing it. 9 times out of 10, no singer goes away from the melody. But what they will do is they will bend a note, or they will give a certain inflection, and then the performance starts to become individual. It starts to become special. So that's what I would suggest that a producer does. Allow the singer to sing the song how they feel it. They won't go away from the rhythm. And if they do, allow it. And then say, okay, now go back and stay in the rhythm, but give me that feeling.
Okay.
With each success that they have, they become less and less and less closed off. It's all about finding ways for them to have a little small success, and then another one, and then another one, and then another one, and then another one, until they feel comfortable with you and they feel like they're making some progress, that they're giving you actually what it is that you want, that they're feeling good about themselves, they're feeling good about the session. It doesn't do any good to get frustrated. Frustration does not help a singer sing any better because singers are very sensitive. I mean, musicians are very sensitive. Just like the producer who is sitting there who is becoming frustrated that the singer can't get it, or, and that's on his face. That's in his vocal inflection. And singers are picking up those vocal inflections. When he pushes the mute button and he's talking to them, they pick up that he's frustrated. And then they become frustrated. And what did I say? I said earlier, if there's a problem, the first place it goes is the throat. Any negativity shuts the throat down. So it's really important to have a very positive atmosphere in the room. I'm not talking about being loose and laughing and joking. This is a serious thing. We're making a record here. It's not a joke. It's serious. But showing your frustration is only gonna close the singer down. So you have to find ways to bring out the positivity, and those are the techniques that I use, and it always works. It always works. Sing the phrase again and just sing it how you feel it. If you shorten a note, like maybe the phrase is, for instance, like Lauryn Hill, for instance, the Killing Me Softly. Roberta Flack said, I heard he sang a good song. But Lauryn Hill said, I heard he sang a good song. It's the same melody, except she felt it a little shorter.
Okay.
And that worked. That worked for her. It became modern. The sound became modern. It was cool for her. And people in her generation felt that song. I felt it too. I happen to prefer the Roberta Flack version, which I think is more beautiful. But okay, but that's apples and oranges, and the Fugees version was a party. It was a hip hop. It was dance. It was have a good time. And right. Roberta Flack was reflective and warm and cuddly and about love. And the other one was also about love, but it was young, it was fresh, it was it was taking chances, and that's what she did. And I can imagine that I wasn't in the studio, but I mean, I know Wyclef, and Wyclef talked about this, and she was trying to get kind of get the feel and trying to connect it, and then all of a sudden it just Wyclef was like, no, I wanted more hip, I wanted more cool, short, 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 and she did it. She found it, and it was a pocket, and as a producer, trying to get the singer to fall into the pocket can be very challenging sometimes. And
Yes.
there again, falling into the pocket means listening to the music. If you are really listening to that music and hearing that music, what's being played in your headphones, and letting it have an influence on you, you cannot help but fall into the pocket. Because what that does is you start to groove with it. Your body starts to move in a certain way. And then you start to feel that pulse in your hip. Everything starts in the hip. If you move your finger, it doesn't start with your wrist. It starts in the hip. And that's another thing that I teach my students. The hips are very important. There are singers, and I'm sure you've met them, who are very stiff in the hips.
Mm-hmm.
That is a singer who's going to have a very difficult time with rhythm. They're never going to come in on time. They're never going to get the rhythm right. They're going to frustrate the hell out of you. The hips, it's the hips. So with a singer like that, I lie them on the floor, and I do a little bit of Feldenkrais with them, which is a little bit of energy and flow. And I see if I can't get the fluidity flowing through those hips. And then all of a sudden they can feel the rhythm. There's all kinds of things that you can do to be of help in the recording studio, and not a hindrance.
I was asked recently to come in and help. There's a young lady named Kinsey, about, I think she's 13 to 15 years old, and she was showing the songs that she picked were, these lyrics were grown up, and not grown up as in sexual, but the content of these lyrics were, somebody was grown and they really wrote some like heartfelt stuff. Like one of the lyrics, you were talking about smiling while singing something sad.
Yes.
The lyric was about, thank you. The lyric was about her being lowered into the ground while her mother is watching this. So she, as a child, being lowered into the ground while her mother is watching it, and she's singing it with, and it's all happy, and I'm looking at her, and I said, "Do you understand this lyric?" She said, "Yeah." And so what I ended up having her do though was sing it over and over and over. She just sang it over and over, the same lyric. And I said, and I just had her, I said, picture in your head your mama, you being lowered down, and just, we're gonna record you, and kept singing it. And I talked to her, saying, now remember your mother is watching you cry, and think of how your mother would feel. And it is amazing how much it's like it stops being a song.
Yes, it becomes a story. It becomes
real.
a real person's trauma. I mean, another thing you could have done that would have worked faster, much faster,
Okay.
is the separation angle. Every child is deathly afraid of being separated from their parent. So you go into the studio and you say, imagine, you take her arm, you take her hand, and you say, now, you get somebody else in the studio, I'm your mother and you're you. And somebody is trying to separate us. And you've got to fight to hold my hand. No matter how much they pull at me, you got to hold my hand. You can't let it go. Because if you let it go, I will lose you. And she would have felt the urgency, the desperation of losing her mother, or the fear of losing her mother, and she would have given you another performance.
Okay.
She would have given you another performance. You have to physicalize it with children because they're very smart. They're more in touch with their emotions than the adults are. They're more in touch with their emotions than the adults are because they're sitting in their room and they're dealing with those emotions every day. They're going to school and girls are calling them ugly and pulling their hair, and they're dealing with all those growing pains that we as adults hopefully have already been through. And so when you have a child that's that sensitive, that's ripe with emotion, you just got to make it very visual. Make it very visual. You could have even discussed it with her and said, "Can you imagine what that feels like to be separated from your mother? How would you feel if you went shopping with your mother at Walmart and you turned to look at something and then you turned back and she was gone and you couldn't find her anywhere in Walmart? How would you feel?" Now sing the song with that feeling. Things that are okay for children. She maybe might would have become emotional and started to cry. That's okay. Sing, sing, use it, use it. But what you did, it worked. It got you what you wanted. What I
Added another tool.
Yeah, what I do, that's what I do. I sit there and I say, "What do you want?" And you tell me, and then I make it happen within a matter of seconds. Because time is money.
It works.
Time is money.
Okay. So add a physical element. Okay.
A physical element to it, especially with children. Especially
Okay.
with children.
Um, the producers, vocal coaches. A lot of us have this view where it's like if they get with a vocal coach, we have to reteach them. And this is what I was posting on the wall asking about this type of stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
from what I've now been experiencing, like I said, I've been doing this stuff with Brad Chapman, and like you posted on my wall, you made some awesome statements about this, but the whole thing is if we can bring producers, vocal coaches together, work as a team.
Yeah,
Um,
that's the optimal word, team. First of all, the vocal coach is not the leader in the room. That's the first thing that the vocal coach has to understand. They are not the lead on this. This is not a private voice lesson where you are the lead. This is a recording session. And the very sense of the word recording session says that the producer is the lead. So if you have a problem being support, then you're the wrong voice teacher. You're the wrong vocal coach to be working in a recording studio because the producer is the one who has the sound in his head of what it is that he's trying to get. You don't know. You're coming into this situation cold, and you really have got to understand what the producer wants as a vocal coach, and then translate that to the singer without upsetting the situation or aggravating or causing a conflict. And that's why I never go into a session without working with the student 30 to 40, 45 minutes before the session begins. They need to know me. They need to know that I'm a human being. They need to know that I bleed. They need to know that I sneeze, that everything happens with them happens with me. Uh, I'm no different and no better. I just have more knowledge. And that knowledge that I have, I am there to give them. And once they see that, uh, it usually works. And I've never had any problems with any producers. I can sense when a producer has an ego and doesn't want me to say too much. And then I will be very quiet. I will be very humble to that before that producer, and eventually the producer gets around to being frustrated and will ask for my help, and then I will help him, and then I win that producer over
Come in and save the
because
day.
yeah, because I'm able to translate what he wants very quickly. Um, Simply because I not only know what's happening in the throat, I know what's happening in the brain, and I know what's happening in the heart of a singer. And he just wants the song to sound great. And my job is to say, okay, today you have a singer that's standing in front of you that has a daddy issue. So we're going to have to handle this particular singer a little differently, because the more strong you come across, the more her daddy issue is going to play a role in how she reacts to you. So once again, we don't push the mute. We push the mute button. We don't let the singer hear what we're talking about. And I explain to you what it is that I see, and I say, let's try a different approach. And hopefully the producer will be game for it. And if they're not, if they really are just really, I don't need this, I can do it myself, then, I have no problem bowing out and saying, okay, thank you, it's great. It was nice to meet you, and I get up and I leave. No problem. But that hasn't happened thus far. That hasn't happened thus far. I must say that if you get the wrong voice teacher in that studio with a producer, it can create all kinds of havoc. Because you really have to understand, as the voice teacher, you are not the primary on this. You're not the primary. You are there as support. You're there to serve the singer. You're not there to talk about proper principles in singing. That's not what this is about. You're working on a song. It's up on the computer, and now you got to produce on the spot. So you don't have time to denigrate somebody because they never learned how to breathe properly. You don't have time to do that. You've got to fix the situation. You've got to help the producer get the sound that he wants, and that is your job. And after the session is over, if you've done your job well, that student will ask you for your card, or that singer will ask you for your card if you've done your job well.
Now,
because they will realize that you made a difference in the production, in the way. How did you get me to do that? Well, we should sit down and talk about that. So you got to be able to do it on the spot, and you cannot do that if you are not clear about physiology, the mental aspect of singing, and the emotional aspect of singing. You will get a singer in talking about not enough emotion. What happens when you get the singer in who has too much emotion?
Okay, I have never experienced that, never thought about that. That's not even in my vocabulary, reality. I'm sitting here like, huh?
I mean, there are singers who are what I call melodramatic. If the song is sad, they really go there. I mean, to a place where it's not sad anymore. It's just like a wuss. And you're thinking, can you pull it back some? That's a little too much. Those kinds of singers, too emotional closes the throat as well. It closes the throat. Not enough emotion, not enough energy will close the throat, and too much energy will close the throat. You got to find the right balance. And what is that right balance? Honesty. That's all you got to do. You got to get the singer to understand how to say what it is that you want them to say from an honest place, and not question the sound. Just, did it feel honest? Yes. He's the producer. If he tells you it sounded great, you got to trust it. But was it honest? Did you feel it? Yes, I felt it. Okay, then we move on. Because I'm sure you as a producer run into the singer who is very critical of themselves, and who wants to listen to every take and check for themselves to see how good they sound. That's what I'm talking about when I said earlier, the 3 reasons why a singer gets nervous, and the third one being you insert yourself into the performance.
Mm-hmm.
That's inserting yourself into the performance.
I've learned to tell the singers that I'm their audience, that I'm the actual audience.
Well, I got one better for you. The microphone, I tell them the microphone hears every emotion and it hears every non emotion. You
Okay.
must understand that what you sing into that microphone, you got to pretend that you're singing for a blind person or a deaf person. They can't see you, but they can hear it, they can feel it. And if you can somehow wrap your mind, wrap your intellect, the intellectual understanding of that microphone representing an opportunity for you to say what it is in secret. The microphone gives you the opportunity to show your emotion in secret. Nobody sees you. The microphone is there to pick up what you give it. If you give it nothing, it picks up nothing. If you give it cold, it picks up cold. If you give it screaming, it will pick up screaming. It will pick up whatever it is that you give it. But it's a private moment. And if you can take them back to, how would you say this in your room? You're in your room all by yourself. What are your true feelings about this boy? You really like him. Your parents said that you can't see him anymore, but you really, really like him. And you feel conflict about honoring your parents and honoring yourself. Once you get them to understand that, then you say, sing. Stay in that feeling and sing. It's just really bringing it home to them, finding a way for that individual singer to identify with the lyric because you're creating on the spot. A good singer will have asked for the lyrics and the song and the track and will have learned the song, really learned it, really studied it, really done their homework. So when they go to the studio, they have an idea about the song. And then together with you as the producer, you come to a solution or to a final solution as to how the song should be sung. And then you just do it. But even if a person, that's what's difficult. These young people today, when you and I were growing up, we had patience because we didn't have a telephone, we didn't have a mobile, we didn't have the internet. You know, you had to write a letter and take it to the post office, and then it had to go through the normal process. We had patience back then. Nothing was immediate. And we had television, but television was entertainment. Now television is not entertainment. Television is immediate gratification. And these kids go into the studio and they start to sing and they don't get it right for the first time or the second time or the third time. And already by the fourth time, they're frustrated because they have no patience. And we live in a culture where it's not promoting that. So you've got to create, or I would say not you've got to, but I think a producer has to create an atmosphere for error. I think that's very important. People have got to feel like if they make a mistake, it's not the end of the world. And that is okay. If you make a mistake, you know what? That was a mistake, but that was hot. I like that. Sometimes the best things come out of mistakes. But you know, it's I know from my own experience from dealing from raising singers up as children and then taking them into the studio and working. It's there's such a fear of transporting that, letting go, so that that energy, that emotion that they're feeling goes into the microphone and through the microphone with a sense of honesty. They're just so afraid. This man is, they feel like they're being judged. And they are because the producer, you know, like I said, time is money. He wants to know, can you know, most every producer is like, can you sing or can you not sing? Can you deliver or can you not deliver?
Yep.
And they don't have no time because they got another project. They got something else to do. They got to maybe mix a song before tomorrow. They need for you to come in and deliver. And that can be very frustrating for a singer who's inexperienced, or who thought they understood the lyric but really doesn't understand the lyric and is not sensitive enough. They don't hear the music. They're not being influenced by the music. Um, they're just trying to prove to the producer that they can sing.
What would be optimal for a person to be able to do before they even go into the studio to record the song?
To, to, to work through that text, to really have a clear understanding of what you're singing about, identify the feelings in the song, where the feelings change, um, and what those emotions are. Is it anger? Is it sadness? Is it confusion? Is it frustration? Is it bewilderment? You know, confusion, frustration, and bewilderment are in the same family, but they are not the same. And learning to differentiate between the three is not easy for someone who's undeveloped. I used to do an exercise with Beyonce and Kelly and Latoya and Latavia, where they would sing Happy Birthday, simple Happy Birthday. And while they were singing, I would say happy, and they would have to sing it happy. And then I would say sad, and then they would have to sing it sad. I mean, and they never knew what emotion I was going to call out. But the only way they could do that was the years of work that we did on sensitivity, becoming sensitive. I would make them sit in my living room and open up my balcony doors and close their eyes and listen to the sound that they heard outside. And they would have to identify the sounds that they heard. They got so good at it, they could tell me which tree was moving. Because God has given us those senses, but we don't use them every day. We don't use them. We're not using our memories. This is something that I want to say, and I'm glad I came to this. Memory is probably the number one thing that a singer needs.
Okay.
Memory, a good memory. If you don't have a brain for singing, it's going to be a nightmare. It's just a night. You got to have the brain for it, and you have to have memory. And what I mean by that is producers deal with this all the time. You have a singer that's coming in, and they sing the phrase, and they make a mistake. You correct them. They sing the phrase again. They make the same mistake. The 15th time they've made the mistake, you're like, okay, let's move on. You've given up. You understand? The singer becomes very frustrated, but it's all memory. It's just memory exercises, and I do memory exercises with my students because I know how important memory is. You have to be able to take what the producer says and remember it before you can deliver it. And a lot of them, they make the same mistakes over and over. You know, you've worked with people yourself that you say, no, the note is da, da, and they go da, da. And you say,
Yes.
no, da, da, and they go da, da. Every time the note changes, and you know, well, they're not tone deaf. It's a memory. It's a memory problem.
So what can we do to make them remember it?
If Now, I don't know if you have time for this, but if you have time for it, the optimal thing would be to do is to call the singer in for a working session before you actually record,
Okay.
so that they get to meet you, they get to see the environment. You know, just think for yourself. What would it be like if you had to go someplace you've never been You would be a little on the defensive until you felt comfortable. Well, that's what's happening when those people are coming into your studio. They've never met you before. They don't know what your studio looks like. People are sensitive to light. People are sensitive to color. And they come into your studio, and it's this color that doesn't make them feel good. Then they're affected by it. I mean, I'm being really silly now, but there are people who are affected by the paint on the wall. So if you can invite them into your environment that they can kind of size it up and assess, oh, this is where I'm going to be recording. Go into the actual booth, stand and see how much space is in there, what it feels like, so it's not a surprise. This would help tremendously. This would help tremendously. Cut the surprise element out of it, and I think you'll get a better performance from them.
What I thought you were going to say was if they were off on the note, just make them hit it about 50 times and then say, okay, now I've changed your memory by rote, and then have them do it. That's what I thought you were about to say.
No, what you can actually do if they really have a problem with the note and you don't want to waste a lot of time, you go and you face north and they face south, and you put your heads together and you sing the note and you allow them to feel the vibration. And you sing it again and they feel the vibration. And then you sing it again and they feel the vibration. They will always sing the right pitch. And then you start to move your head slightly away from their head. Your mouth is still close enough to their ear for them to feel the vibration of your voice. And then until you're separated. And then you go back in and they most 9 times out of 10 will sing the right note.
I'm glad we got this on video. You saying that.
So yeah, it works. It works. It works. It was very interesting. In my master class in Houston, one of the girls was singing a song that she chose, and she was singing completely the wrong pitch. And I kept trying to tell her that she was, after the third time of telling her that she was singing, I just went to her and put her head to mine and then sang the pitch, and she said, I could lead her. If I wanted to go make her sing a cue, I could make her sing a cue because she was following then the vibration. And in the room were just amazed that I could guide her like that. And then once I got her to feel the vibration, it stayed, and she was able to sing the pitch. So
tone deaf people.
This is what I mean by being helpful to the producer, and not creating an atmosphere of discord or conflict. Being helpful, because you as a producer, you may not know about vibration therapy and how to get the singer to sing on pitch using vibration therapy. You may not know about that, but I certainly do, and I can be helpful in saying, okay, she's not hearing the pitch, let me go try this, and then if that works, problem solved, we can move on to the next thing. That's basically what I try to do when I go and work with a producer.
You were saying you can even work with deaf people because of the vibrations.
Yeah. You can turn the speakers down onto the floor, make them sit barefoot with both feet flat on the floor, and they will feel that vibration. And they will hum. They will hum in tune of the song.
Wow.
Yep. It's the body is made perfect. God has made everything perfect. We were all born perfect, being able to do all of this stuff from nature. It is our insecurities through our childhood traumas, or somebody put you down, somebody called you ugly, somebody called you fat. You know, the worst people in the studio are the people who were once fat and lost a whole bunch of weight. That fat person is always with them. No matter how fantastic they look, that fat person is always with them. And that is a person who you're going to get such a real emotion from if you can get them to admit that they have a feeling about being teased. That's the thing. You got to get the singer to admit that they understand the emotion that you're after. And in order to admit that they understand it, they have got to identify with it, which means they have to make a connection to it somehow. And a lot of times that can be very painful. So how do you do that in a situation where you're not going to be sued for mental
Yeah,
duress?
I'm with
Mental
you.
duress. You just get them to talk. You take a little break. You say, let's take a break, and then you go sit. You have some water into the lounge, or you just put your feet up and you just have a conversation. And then when you go back in the room, the singer is their insecurities are their guard is let down. They trust you more and more and more. It's really the jobs that we are doing. It's really you have to trick them into a good performance. That's what you're doing. You have to trick them into a good performance. And what would you do in your home situation with your own wife if you wanted her, or what would your wife do to you if she wanted you to do something? She would trick you into it. And that's what we're doing. We're tricking them into it. And you just got to be very good at it.
You said um, you have posted about, is it Sophie or Sophia? I forget.
Sophie. Her
Sophie.
name is Sofia, but we call her Sophie. Sophie Fedorova.
Okay, so me and Dre the Most went and we immediately looked at this video and we said, "Oh, she gonna be bad. Hold on now. This child is she's singing like this. She gonna, you know."
She's
And
just 12.
you said well, what do you have going on right now? Because I know she's not the only person you're working with. What do you have going on? Like I'm over here in Pensado students. We're doing our thing. What do you have going on?
Well, I have several students that I am working on pairing them together with the right producers that are interested in doing production deals on these singers, so that then we can go and shop the deals with record labels. I have a girl by the name of Georgia Barry, Barry, out of London. She's an R&B kind of soul singer. You can look her up in YouTube. Then her sister, Janine Barry, with that's Jeannine, is a country singer from the same house, same parents. And I'm actually trying to hook her up with a Nashville producer, or trying to find the right one. For me, it's all about the right marriage. Finding the right marriage, finding the producer that can hear what I hear, um, and then pairing them together, and then it always works. It always works when I go about it that way. And then I have Sophie, who is 12, but Sophie won't be ready for public consumption. I won't even allow her to start singing for record labels and things like this. I mean, they can listen and they can know she's there. And of course, I've already put the word out and I'm already talking about her at 12. But I would say until she's 15, 16, then she's gonna be really, really good. Then I have a guy by the name of Alexander von Hugo. He's a German who I think has one of the most beautiful sounds I've heard from a man in a long time. And I'm going to send you via email his track. He's singing Donny Hathaway's um,
All right now.
he's singing
That,
Donny Hathaway's song. I mean, in his way, but
okay.
it's Donny oh my God, what is
Is
the
it the
name of that
song you were
song?
talking about?
Uh, Song for You, I think it is.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
my song. Like I said,
oh, he's white
Sad
German.
Mom.
He's white German, but I
Andy dropped out. We'll be back.